Hi, thank you for joining me.
It is my pleasure.
I'd first like to introduce my son. This is Neumiller, and I'm going to be interviewing him today. The purpose of this interview is for my business communications course, and it's going to be viewed by a number of my classmates and my instructor. And on this, they will be judging me and not you.
Load off my back.
Yeah, that's good. To just see if I am following kind of the basic procedures of an interview and the basic steps and etiquette and everything. It's only going to last about 10 minutes or so. It's about 10 questions, so
Okay.
it's not going to go too long. Okay, so we'll proceed with that.
Let's do it.
Okay, question number 1. In a couple of days, you'll be graduating from your Secret Service training and become a Secret Service officer. What led you to pursue this as an occupation?
Good question. So before this, I was a teacher. I worked a number of odd jobs before that. I worked some landscaping, catering. I worked at a refinery for a while. And I enjoyed all those jobs. But teaching I actually enjoyed the most. But since I was younger, I think a lot of kids, and maybe especially a lot of boys, go through, you want to be a secret agent or something like that. You want to do something cool and get all that training and be able to do something that seems outstanding. And I was kind of waiting for that to go away as I got older, and it didn't really. So before I got too old, I was like, all right, let's take some time. Let's switch paths a little bit, and let's actually give this its due. And yeah, so a bit over a year ago, I applied, and since then, I made it this far, and yeah, in a couple of days I graduate.
You said to change paths, so teaching is more of your main focus?
I love teaching. I miss teaching every day, but I knew that be it 10 or 20 years, eventually I'd regret it, and I'd be like, shucks, I should have done that. I wish I would have spent the time. And sure enough, I love the training. I love the whole environment, and I'm really glad that I'm giving the time to do this.
Okay. Tell me something about the Secret Service qualification process.
So it's a multi-step process before the training starts. First, you'll write in, they'll do an initial background check, just like the same type that if a cop says, hey, let me see your ID for a sec. So just a real quick thing, make sure there's no outstanding warrants or something before they deal with you further. And then they'll set up a little kind of aptitude test. You go in, you answer some questions.
You physically went into a field office?
No, I went into, they do it like at a Pearson testing center.
Oh, okay.
Just, they have their own thing. So you answer some questions, you write your thoughts and some things. They give you a couple scenarios, ask you how you would react, how you would respond, et cetera, et cetera. Just kind of getting a feel for you. And then if you pass that, then you're scheduled for your first interview. And your first interview, they lay it out. This is what's going on. You're going to be, eventually you're going to get top secret clearance. So we have to do a very in-depth security interview and very in-depth background check. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We're not going to ask any questions, but you just have to know. And I remember, even though I was clear conscience, I know I've never committed, outstanding crimes, but they said, very seriously, and you should know a background check can turn into a criminal investigation very quickly. And that kind of, I see.
Meaning, if they find anything,
yeah,
they will pursue it to the full extent of the law.
Exactly. So, whoever you are, if a Secret Service agent says that to you, it's a little scary. But I signed the paper, and I went along with the process, and then it was lots of forms about travel, people everything. They call a lot of people you do a polygraph, multiple interviews in between, And then about 5 months later, I got a letter that says you have been, what's the word, like, kind of initially accepted into the Secret
No,
Service.
it's just initial. It's
And
still
then
not,
we
yeah.
all met, we swore in, but that was before any of our training started. That was back beginning of June, where that was my official, they call it your EOD, so your date of entry, kind of.
Do you have any idea of the percentage of people who did not make it through that initial?
The special agent in charge of training actually said in our first week, it's usually about 1 in 200 make it from, they fill out the initial form, which I filled that out right at the beginning of January. Takes about 2 hours. So from that point where you're filling out and sending in the form to get the whole thing started to actually graduating, about 1 in 200.
1 in 200, so 0.5% actually of people who initially inquire make it all the way through.
That's what he said.
Well, that's a significant number. Okay, next question. What do you feel are the primary qualities that they're looking for in applicants?
Well, our kind of slogan thing is worthy of trust and confidence. So probably that. We've heard that more times than I can count. You should be worthy of trust and confidence. There's also the 5-pointed star. There's loyalty, trust, confidence, and 2 other ones that are slipping my mind right now. So, but really, yeah, they make it clear to you. And actually, our polygrapher, he made it really clear to me in an interesting way. He said that he does polygraphs. He said he's polygraphed candidates for the FBI, for the CIA, for the Secret Service. He's polygraphed terrorists. He's polygraphed serial killers. He's done his job a lot.
Yeah.
And he said that for all the federal agencies, there's different steps to the polygraph, and one of them is the character portion. And they said that they're the most scrupulous. The Secret Service is more scrupulous than any other agency on that portion. And he said, just a quick example, every other law enforcement in the country is taught, you hear gunfire, you seek cover. Your Secret Service, there's a pretty good chance you hear gunfire, you run into it and jump in front of your protectee. So
So you need
there's a certain level of character that they're looking for throughout the process.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What do you feel are your strongest qualities in this regard?
I've had a pretty good life, and there's nothing I've had to lie about. So, I guess trustworthiness. There's nothing that I felt like I needed to hide from them. And that surprised me at first, actually, because one of the things I had to fill out was my security forms, and that asks you, do you have any foreign contacts? Have you ever traveled overseas? And I've done both of those quite a bit. I've done that quite extensively, as you know. So I didn't know if that was gonna mess me up at all. But yeah, no, I think that's been a godsend for me, that I don't have to be worried about anything. I just confidently tell them, they ask a question, give them an answer, and I think they appreciate that.
Okay, we're about halfway through here.
Okay.
Having completed your training, what do you feel were your weakest areas?
My weakest areas, some instructors I've been called this both in a good way and in a bad way. They call you, there's folks that are 90%ers. They're always functioning as if they're one step away from if this was real. So like adrenaline's always a little high. And they like that because there's a certain amount of enthusiasm that comes with that, which they appreciate. But also it can make you a little bullheaded sometimes. When it comes to tactics that take more, tact than just enthusiasm, I sometimes suffered in those areas. You rush into a room too quick and you get shot, for example, instead of following the due process, taking the extra 3 seconds.
We haven't touched on that, but there's a significant physical aspect.
Yes, yeah, that's something that they're looking for. It's a physical job, at least when it has to be. When the Secret Service really needs to be there and doing their job, it's a very physical job because it's protection based. So yeah, they expect you to be at a certain level of physical performance.
And where do you feel you made your most gain or advancement along this training process?
Well, there's really too many answers to that question because I found this out quite quickly when I came in. A lot of people either come from a law enforcement or military background or know a lot of people from law enforcement backgrounds. Many of them, their fathers were cops, something of the sort. Or they all studied, like half my class studied criminal justice in college. So I didn't do any of that. And as a result of that, there's a lot that I got to learn. I didn't know about the tactics. I didn't know about basic criminal justice procedures and stuff. So it's really expanded my worldview and what I know in a lot of areas.
Okay. You've told me that there will be opportunities to specialize in particular branches of the service. Could you name some of the main possibilities and tell me what most interests you?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a lot of ways that you can go in this profession, and I think that's really exciting. You could become a medic, which I think is cool. There's the canine officers, so they have dogs that sniff for bombs, explosives, and also there's attack dogs in case of an incident or protective incident. There's counter sniper, where that's exactly what it sounds like. They're snipers and they're looking for bad snipers. And there's ERT, and so far everything I'm saying, this is just the officer section. And then there's the agents, and they have their own specialties. And we can get into, I think that's one of the, we can get into the distinction there in a moment. And what I really want to learn is I really love, even though I said that was one of the things I struggled with, just kind of being a bit too gung-ho on the tactics, I really love the tactics and learning how, just like the nuts and bolts of tactical protection. And ERT, which is the emergency response team, that's their bread and butter. That's what they do.
Is that kind of like a SWAT or?
It's comparable to that, except they're protection based. Like SWATs are usually coming in on high risk warrants or something. Yeah. This is if something bad were to happen at the White House or at a protective site, you lock it down, you clear it out, kind of thing.
Okay. Okay, well, we had just touched on this. Can you tell me what the distinctions between the officer, which is what you are now, you're a Secret Service officer.
Or I will be in 2 days.
Well, in 2 days, yeah. And the special agents, what's the distinction?
Yes, so when most people think of Secret Service, they think agent. They think the guy in the suit next to the president with the earpiece and the sunglasses. Yeah. And fair enough, because that is the most direct and certainly the most publicized aspect of protection that the Secret Service does. And many would argue, including us, the most important thing that they do. But there's a lot more to it than that. It's broken into, as you said, agents and officers. And both of their jobs are primarily protection, but they do it in different ways. Agents are, as a class, criminal investigators. They do a lot of, investigations. They do a lot of work behind the desk and finding out if this person is a threat, looking into it, all that stuff. A lot more investigation. Plus, they have their whole financial side, which is how the Secret Service started, with financial crimes, counterfeiting, etc. The officers, those protection-based, as a class, we're uniformed police officers. So it's our job, generally, to do the more hands-on, tactile portion of the Secret Service. For example, the White House is the White House, but it's placed in DC, and DC is a city. And therefore, to get things done on a broad-based protection level in DC, we need police powers. So uniformed division, which is the officers, they have DC police authority. They have the same authority as the DC police. And that allows them to, if there's someone doing something illegal right outside the White House, but it's not a federal crime, they can look into it, they can stop them, they can ask them questions, they can figure out what's going on, and if necessary, they can make that arrest. Whereas an agent wouldn't be able to do that, because they don't have that same police jurisdiction that the officers do. So basically, they're both pursuing protection, but agents are pursuing it primarily through investigation, and officers are pursuing it primarily through policing.
Okay. You've mentioned the possibility of transitioning to become a special agent sometime in the future. What would that entail?
You go through another 4 months of training that's based primarily towards investigations instead of just, again, the protection aspect is what makes us similar. So half the training that I've gotten, which is protection, is the same as the half of the training they've gotten, essentially, which is protection.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a whole other side of it, which is investigations. So that would be the focus of that training.
And you've had a total of 7 months training?
About 7.5.
7.5,
Yeah.
okay.
And was part of it that I've thought about doing that in the future or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, because and a lot of people, and there's a lot of, and there's cool things in both sides of it, but I wanted to start off, I felt like you'd have a better base in this whole thing to start off with the more on-the-ground policing aspect of it. And then if I wanted to take it further, I can move into the more investigative part. But not everybody does it that way.
And as it is right now, you're going to be stationed primarily at the White House?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, a final question here. Why or how do you feel this has been a good career choice for you in this stage of your life?
I think a lot of young people want to do something cool, want to do something special, and I certainly feel like I'm a part of something that's cool and special. The training is, I think training is good for people. I think training makes you better, so obviously there's a lot of training, shooting guns and tackling someone and clearing a building. But there's also training in the law and in civic law and in understanding that our first legal class, someone came out and said, the founders wrote the Bill of Rights to protect the citizens from you. You're a law enforcement now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to tread carefully. We love this country, but don't overstep your authority. Remember that, and when we swear an oath, we've sworn it once on our first day, but we'll swear it again when we graduate. It's to serve and protect the Constitution, not the president, not the federal government, not the Secret Service agency, the Constitution and the people of the United States. So I think it's a really cool job, and it's something that I'm proud to be a part of.
Oh. Well, thank you very much. That concludes the questions that I have. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, or we covered a lot of territory there? But
Yeah.
if there was anything,
Let me think. No, I was happy to do it, and
yeah. Well, thank you very much. Again, just I want to reiterate this, that this is for my communications class,
Yeah.
and it will be viewed. I think I have to post it on a special place on YouTube. Nobody's ever gonna find it.
no problem.
So, well, I thank you very much and wish you all success, certainly.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Okay, thank you.